Hi, this is Marcy from Spirit Source at 1033 Main. I've decided to do some little videos about reading tarot. I'm going to start with the very basics, and so we begin with the deck. It has a total of 78 cards, but these are divided into two sections, or sometimes referred to as two books. One of those is the Major Arcana. This is 22 cards, beginning with 0, the Fool, who is sometimes known as the Seeker, and culminating in card 21, the World. And this is also known as the Fool's Journey. The Major Arcana are cards which cover universal themes, life lessons, you could say the hand of fate, and it's been portrayed in the story of the journey of the Fool, from his state as a complete beginner setting out into the world, until he goes through various steps on his way to enlightenment, which culminates in the World, a card that represents a great deal of achievement and all of what the Fool has learned through the course of these lessons. When these cards come up in a reading, especially if there are a lot of major arcana in a reading, and certainly if there are more major arcana than minor arcana, which these are also called sometimes trump cards, the major arcana. When there are more of these than there are of minor arcana in a reading, that's an indication that important life lessons are at work, and that the matters under discussion are not really in your own hands. That these are things you have to go through to learn how to progress in your own spiritual path. It also can be an indication that previous actions and decisions have set these events in motion, and they are not going to be turned around because of the way that they were established in the past. So you do then need to learn to work with these forces, and that's where the guidance comes in. I will say also that tarot is not only used for divination. We tend to think of the gypsy reading cards and telling the future, and certainly there is that aspect of it, but they're also used in other ways. Tarot cards are often used in spell work. So, for example, if you had a court date coming up, you might want to work with the Justice card, or you can use multiple cards, I'm sure. And you also might work with the Emperor card, who represents authority. And these are both major arcana cards. And you might do some spells involving those cards to try to urge things to come out in the best way for you. They also can be used in meditation. There is a card called the Star, which has a lot to do with our faith and hope and an ability to envision something greater outside of ourselves. That's a beautiful card to meditate on, and that's one that I tend to find myself very responsive to. So you can maybe each day take a card out and spend some time studying the images on that card and what they evoke in you in response to them. They're also considered to be a gateway to the subconscious mind, because the images on your cards are heavily symbolic, and in examining the card from that standpoint of symbolism, you access the part of your mind that understands things symbolically, and that's in the subconscious and the right brain that we tend to see that. So not all readers are necessarily, this card means this card means that. Certainly when I read, I start out that way, but as I'm doing that, I start to see the story take place in my mind, and I start to get sensations that are intuitive reactions and are not necessarily connected to each card having a particular meaning. And so there's a combination of intuitive reading as well as understanding the cards. But you have to build that foundation of understanding before that can really take place. So the major arcana, they are about forces outside of the self, universal themes, our worldview, where we are in the stream of life lessons, fate and destiny, and the forces that shape our decisions in terms of the big picture. Not so much the day to day. That's where we get into the 56 cards of the minor arcana. Now, the minor arcana are cards about everyday events. They give us guidance about daily, more mundane matters in the human experience. These are also the cards we watch to get an understanding of our ongoing growth in the sense of from one day to the next, rather than from one chapter in the book to the next, one page to the next. If most of the cards in your reading are in the minor arcana, that's an indication that you have a lot of wiggle room in how things are going to unfold for you. It's an indication that you are actually more in control of what's going on and less responding to outside nudges from outside forces and pressures. The minor arcana are also the cards that are more likely to have a wider variety of interpretations from one reader to the next. And we'll get into that as I do more videos looking into the individual meanings of cards and what they might bring up for people. But you will find a great deal of variety in the ways that people look at the minor arcana compared to the major arcana. The minor arcana come in 4 suits. Generally, we would say the cups, wands, swords, and pentacles. And each of those suits represents an energy. So, for example, cups are usually associated with a water energy, with emotion and intuition and flow. And the easy way to remember that is that we use a cup to hold our water. So they kind of go together. Pentacles are considered an earth-based energy. They refer to the material world, often more specifically to finances and physical being of a manifestation. There is some debate on wands and swords, which one is air and which one is fire. Personally, I think of swords as air, and I think of wands as fire, with the passion and the creativity and the social interaction and that goes with the wands. And the swords, the intellect and the reasoning and the sort of cold, calculating, less emotional approach to things. And so I associate that more with the air. I think of like a chill breeze. If you were to swing your sword and it stirs the air, you feel the breeze blow across you. That's me. Some people see that the energy is reversed, that swords are fire and that wands are air. But in my interpretation, I will be going with wands as fire and swords as air. I want to talk very briefly about one more group of cards. These are the court cards. They are part of the minor arcana. They have 4 ranks. These are the people of the tarot. We have the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. These can literally represent people in your life. They can also represent qualities that you are bringing to a situation or that you need to learn from that situation. And they represent certain amount of activity. So pages, I tend to think of as messengers. They bring news with regard to current events. And knights, because they're usually on a horse and they're moving, I associate that movement with change. And so when I see knights showing up in a reading, I expect that the situation is going to have some movement and change. I think of queens as having some authority, and they're associated with people of some maturity and experience, and we'll get into that when we do that. And I think of kings as mentors. They've already achieved within their field. They've already accomplished a great deal and fully developed their authority, and they are ready now to bring something to others in the community, and they speak from a position of complete authority. So these also, if you have a reading and a lot of court cards come up in that reading, that's also an indication that other people, not other forces the way that the major arcana convey, but other people are very involved in the situation that's being read, and they will have a profound impact on the flow of events and how things go, and their contribution needs to be taken into account as you make decisions about how you're going to handle that situation. So this is my beginner tutorial on reading the tarot, and I look forward to doing some more videos to open up the world of tarot and get into interpretation a little bit as well. Thanks, and have a great day.